I remember I was going with that train of thought. I gathered myself during those few minutes. But one of the questions she asked me was, how has traditional financial planning failed women? It's not necessarily that it's failed them, but it doesn't take into account so many other aspects of it. Right? If we don't take care of our health, that affects us financially. If we're very social beings, right, as women, you think of the 3 ways that we invest: money, time, people. We're very good at investing in people for women, right? I think about my dad's circle, my husband's circle. It's like so a few people they know from work. Okay, there might be a few buddies from high school, college, but that's kind of it. You go into our world, and there's so many different people that we know, connections. We're always are trying to put people together in things. So the planning side forgets about the social aspect of retirement and how that impacts us. And I even see it. I was with my good friend today, and she's a financial advisor. She actually works with her mom. So my friend is in her 50s, her mom's in her 80s. She goes, my mom decided this year she's going to retire at 86.
Oh my God.
86, she's going to retire. Now, she didn't start being an advisor, I think, until she was early 60s. Okay, like her husband retired, and she decided to do something for herself.
She went back to work.
She was very successful. Yeah, interesting. You retired from AT&T, got a package back in the day. And we were talking about something like with my father, at some point he's going to retire, and the closer my dad gets to that age in his mind, the more he's holding on to the reins. It's almost like he's terrified of what that next step is for him. And you think about how much of our identity is tied to our work and our careers. And for him, I mean, he likes to feed his bird feeder. He likes to go to the bird lady. He likes to go and swim. He does triathlons. Like, he has a few things, but that's you can't do that all day long. So the closer he gets, you can see the scarier he gets, the more he wants to hold on to the business. And I was talking with Vanessa Tyler again during it, and we were talking about identity and having something to retire to. And for women especially, I see so many women regretting that they retire because they miss the social interaction, the day-to-day social interaction of seeing people. You're like, oh, I get my coworkers that much. But I think it's also at work we feel valued, right? I get a paycheck. Hopefully you get positive reinforcement from people saying you're doing a good job, or from your clients, you're doing a good job. You feel valued. How do you replace that in retirement? It's very hard. And I know in my work, growing up, I was very, very insecure. Very low confidence. Piece of that, well, goes all the way back to my mom growing up. She had a verbally abusive mom who would tell her she was fat, she was dumb, she was ugly. None of those things are true. But my grandmother, she was bipolar. She wasn't on medication. It wasn't a good situation. So my mom was very insecure. And growing up, my mom would yell at me if I was a tomboy. If my hair was up, she would yell at me, I'm not dressing the right way. So I think that stemmed into me always trying to fit in and being insecure. How does my hair look? How do I dress? Am I okay? Am I going to fit in today? And I got a lot of confidence from basketball. And I felt valued on the basketball team because I was good. So guess what I did? I threw myself into basketball. That was my world. That's what I cared about day in, day out. So my highs were tied to basketball. If I had a bad game, my lows were tied to basketball, right? My identity was basketball. Now here in my business, I feel the most confident when I'm doing things like this, right? When I'm giving value to women, because the more value I give to you, the more valued I feel, the more confident I feel. So I throw myself into my business, as my therapist says. You're consumed with work, but it's where I feel the most valued, right? And I talk about being a mom makes me very happy. It doesn't make me feel fulfilled day in, day out. This stuff is what makes me feel fulfilled. So a lot of my identity, like with you guys, is tied to work. But we have to start separating the work highs from, our personal life and how tied they are. Right? How much better do you feel when you get a bonus or you get a sale or you hit a certain salary figure, right? Our self-worth is so tied to that number. And talking with Vanessa, and I could see her, it was hitting her too, how tied she is to her work. And I mean, you have to hustle when you're a reporter or an anchor woman. Competition's fierce. And she's like, channels are constantly getting bought. She's constantly, right now she works, one of her jobs is Files News. They just got bought. Her channel's getting completely changed into something like News 12. So she doesn't know where she stands in that job. So she's like, you're right. You don't want your highs and lows of life so tied to our careers and our identities, because then in retirement, we lose that. So how are we going to have highs and lows then in retirement when we don't have that anymore and stuff? So things like this is what I want to get you guys thinking about. Okay, that next step, is there something for me to retire to instead of just running from a job I don't like anymore or from the corporate world that just isn't treating me well anymore or bleeding me dry and sucking my soul out. So I know I need to work on it and start to separate my value from my work value and stuff. And same thing for you guys as you come up to retirement and stuff. Okay. So tonight we're going to go through this worksheet. Okay. I'm going to get you guys thinking about things, have asked you guys a few questions to reflect on, discuss. And then what I would love to do is do a few hot seats where we do one-on-one 10 minutes to see where do you guys right now, what is kind of your club project? Like, what do you want to get done during our time together? What's the thing you want to work on, the fear you want to get over, thing you want to implement? It could be just estate documents, or it could be figuring out what am I going to retire to, or how to build an income from my assets, or how much income am I going to get from my assets? Whatever it is. And stuff. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's go into, everyone's got one of these, right? So this is about the retirement plan. And one of the woman I was talking about earlier who had brain surgery, she's like, everyone tells me to save, and invest. Where the hell do I invest? Like, what does that mean, invest? How do I know I'm investing properly, that it's working for me? And she's like, my neighbor keeps saying, oh, get $250,000 and then I got a guy for you. She's like, oh, that scares the hell out of me because I'm just going to trust this guy with $250,000 saved up. And she goes, and who's telling me how to save up that money? Where am I saving up that money? Is it just sitting in a bank account? And stuff. So it's very true. It's like, okay, we all know we need to save. We all know we need to invest. But how does it affect me? How do all these pieces come together in the end? Okay. So what are the factors in retirement? And this really goes into basically the retirement projections that we put together, that we've done together. We just did this the last meeting. We'll be doing this soon too, right? We have income, expenses, taxes, inflation, assets, withdrawal rates, what's coming on here, investment returns, and required minimum distributions. Hello?
Hi, Jess, it's Dawn. Sorry I'm late.
Hi, Dawn. How are you?
I'm good. I'm running a little bit ragged today, but I'm at least here for a little while.
All right, no problem. We're just going into the worksheet, so good time.
Okay, perfect.
So for me, I separate the factors. What's working for us, what's working against us. Let's start to simplify it. Sometimes we try to overcomplicate things. And when we overcomplicate things, we get distracted by things. Or we get distracted by too much information or by people telling us to do all these different things. Let's keep it simple. What works for us in retirement? Okay, so income sources. We have Social Security. Has everybody gone on to socialsecurity.gov, signed up an account, and gotten what their benefits are? Okay.
I have.
That's a really good first step. Mm-hmm. It takes some time, right? It's not too bad. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, it's really
good.
And every year they send you, your past year's
And updated.
earnings and
Okay,
updated.
good. Yeah.
They used to automatically do it, but now you have to, I think, go online.
Yeah.
You have to send.
They change it every few years. I think now they send every 5 years. because it is a big cost. You think about it. It's customized to every individual.
Mhm.
It's multiple pages back and forth and stuff. So
It's really
You think
interesting
it'd
to
be a
see
good
the
cost.
different, how your income grows throughout the
Yes.
years.
It
That's
is.
really
It's
interesting
fascinating, yeah.
to see.
and it's a good way to look at inflation too,
Mhm.
right? How much has your income gone up? I mean, obviously, as your career goes up, your promotions, income, but also the difference between.
So if we haven't signed up yet, does that mean that we're not getting any? We wouldn't see any history on how it's
No,
grown?
no, you
Oh no, you would. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
will as
I
soon
know
as
I
you
used
sign
to
up.
get stuff.
They
on
have
there,
all the
maybe because when I
information
have to
for
sign
you.
up, I don't-
yeah.
It'll
You
go
just
right
gotta
back
get
on
an
the
account.
first paycheck that you ever, the first year you got a
Mhm.
paycheck, it'll go all the way back
Yeah,
to
it's
that.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Until very recently, I saved every paycheck I ever earned.
Did you?
Really?
I just
I got rid of them.
shredded
I got rid of them
mine. Yeah, I
recently.
mean, like, I said, do I really need it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I keeping
Try
these
to
for?
get rid of
Wow.
papers.
Yeah.
But it's a security, I think every 90 days, if you don't look, you have to change the passcode. That's the only pain in the neck. on the-
Most places,
either
financial
every
institutions now
60
do that.
days or 90 days. I don't
Probably
know.
90.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm gonna do that.
So
It's on
you-
my
you
to-do
have to-
list.
you have to try that.
And then for the worksheet, write down the amount right next to Social Security amount, right? You can go home.
Okay.
So you can start figuring out, okay,
Okay.
these are the incomes that I'm going to be getting, just as a quick cheat sheet to get back to.
Okay.
Pension amount. Amy, you have a pension.
Mhm.
Anybody else have a pension? You have a pension.
Mhm.
Write down your pension amount.
So you want to know what we're going to be getting on a monthly basis or what the full amount of the pension is? What do you wanna-
Monthly or annual.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, because mine's like a lump sum, I think.
lump sum. Okay. Income from investments or gains from investments. Okay. So this you can put the actual dollar amount of all of your investments. I would say do retirement and then non-retirement because they're going to be taxed differently. Okay. And then we can play around with percentages. If my assets earned 5%, this is the income it would give me, pre-tax and after tax, right? What's the net amount hitting that would hit my bank account? Okay. Employment income. Anybody think they're gonna work in retirement in some aspect?
Yeah, I think I might.
Consulting, part-time.
One more greeting.
I have a woman, she sells greeting cards. She brings you greeting cards. Okay. So then we can play around. Okay. And also a great way to do it is, what are my expenses? Here's my total income. Is there a deficit? Like, what do I need to fill? And that helps us get clear on, okay, if I need an extra 20,000 or is it 40,000 a year
Right.
to have the same lifestyle that I want or to be able to do the vacations I want to do, well, then I'm willing to work this amount. I had one-
Walmart job.
Yeah, one teacher, and she's like, could I substitute teach to make up the difference? I'm like, well, you'd have to substitute teach almost every day. Is that worth it to you to walk away from a higher salary? And so it does help you make those decisions. And then rental or passive income, right? So Susan, you have a rental property.
Mhm.
That could, if you end up keeping in retirement, right, you would write down that income.
Okay.
How could that help us? Anything like that.
And what would be a passive income?
Let's say you own a
Royalties.
business.
I'm sorry. Royalties. Royalties, yeah.
Yeah, royalties. So the gym I belong to, she's actually my husband's buddy from high school. He opened a gym right in our town. I go, this works out really well. So we go there, and I see this guy that looks really familiar. I actually ran cross country with his daughter at Rutgers Prep. Somehow they got connected. He was his trainer, and he was talking about this idea of a gym. They wanted to open the Bridgewater area because that's where they both live. Ended up being up in Chester. He retired from Wall Street. He didn't want to just sit at home. Like, I'll give you some seed money. I'll mentor you, coach you, become your partner in this business. And now he's basically there every day. I see him and his wife there right when my class ends. He gets there, but he loves it. He loves being able to give back his experience as a business owner with investments and to mentor the main owner, but also all the trainers on their money too. So he's getting passive income just by giving his experience and expertise. So that can be, a business can be passive income. Right? My own business coach, she's like, yeah, I really want to invest in an advisory firm. Right? She's like, I would love to she likes me, she likes my work and stuff. She's like, I could give you seed money to, you know, bring on more advisors, bring on
What is
extra
seed
help.
money?
Like, basically buy into the firm,
Okay.
buy equity, right?
Okay.
And then she would get a percentage of the revenue every year, right? By not doing much. Like she said she would help coach us,
Mhm.
you know, quarterly
Shark
or
Tank on the
monthly.
board,
Shark
yeah.
Tank.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yep.
So business can be passive income for you, depending on how much. We have one client, and he wanted so bad. He was so bored being retired. He wanted really bad to open a franchise. Right? They're very popular, and I've heard a few good stories, a lot of bad stories. Remember frozen yogurt? There's like in every strip mall, right? Those frozen yogurt stores. Yeah. So luckily he did do his research, and he spoke to a few different types of chains. Spoke to a few owners. He's like, yeah, none of them are making money. They're all about to close shop. So, okay, that's not a good option for him, right? But we do see people doing that type of stuff. Okay. And then,
Jessica, do you find people who get bored in retirement like that, are they the hard charging kind, or is it just because their identity was all about their work? Because I can't fathom not finding plenty of things to
Yeah.
do.
You know what, I don't miss work.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if
Okay.
I had some work.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of, you know, after you raise, I mean, I don't know how I raised 2 kids on my own because I have no time for anybody today except for me. So you do fill your time. You
Mhm.
find places to fill your
And
time.
you
up
do
with.
things slower, so the days
yes,
you are not rushing when you go food shopping, you know. You go,
time becomes your luxury.
Yeah.
And stuff. That's kind of how you use it. Yeah. I have it, and it's really your mindset going into it too. Right? I have one couple, and she retired sooner. He's still working, and every day he tells her we're going to run out of money. They're not.
That's nice.
We show them the projections, but he has, no matter what we tell him, what we show, back of mind, we're going to run out of money. So every morning on the way to work, he tells her that. When he comes home, he tells her that.
Is that a male thing?
It's how you.
Men seem
He
to worry about
probably
that
grew
more than
up
women.
that way,
Um,
right? And continued it. And it's not as if, she made just as much money as him. It's not like he was a breadwinner or vice versa. But yeah, so she sits on her couch all day because she's terrified if she does anything, she's going to run out of money.
that's
A lot of things
terrible.
she can do that are free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a strategy for him so she won't go do
Yeah, I know. I'm just going to shut this
that?
oh, the baby is growing.
Baby is growing.
Wow.
Almost there. And then the other thing working for us, the biggest thing is low withdrawal rates from our accounts, right? I have some people, and they'll take out 10, 20% of their account. Like, well, why isn't my account growing? Well, we would have to earn a lot of money to even keep it flat and even. So what happens is if you're taking out more money than it's growing, you're dipping into your principal, right? You're dipping into that nest egg every year. And we forget about, especially retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, we forget that money's also getting taxed. So maybe you're taking out $5,000, but you're taking out in total $7,000 a month. You forget about that extra $2,000 because that just goes out of sight to withholding, just like your paychecks too. So if they forget how much extra they're taking out and how much that actually is affecting them and why their accounts are dwindling. So the lower our withdrawal rates, the better. I'm not about like, okay, if you want to perfectly spend down your money so there's nothing left in retirement, we can work on that. I'm not saying don't take any money out or be so conservative you're barely living and stuff. But once you get into these higher digits, and depending on what's going on in the markets, if we have a period, and we just did, right, from 2000 to 2010, markets went nowhere. Right? So you can't bet on the markets always are going to go up and replace the money you're taking out. You're going to go through periods where the markets are completely flat, the markets are going down, and that's what we talk about, the withdrawal rates. If we have a great year, okay, maybe we'll take out a little bit extra. The next year's like, okay, can we push that trip off, that renovation, the new house off a little bit to make sure that we're not going to dip too much into the nest egg you work so hard for, right? And then what's working against us? Inflation. All right, so inflation. Let's see. I'll actually stand up. Inflation's about 3% right now. Healthcare inflation's over 5%. Though. And when you think about how much healthcare, and right, actually, we did this last week? When we met, like, wow, healthcare, it's growing really quickly. Like all of a sudden we were paying a few $1,000s and now we're $20,000 a year in healthcare costs. It's because, you know, if it's growing by 5%, it's really, especially the later years of retirement, you see it taking a toll on your money more and more and stuff. That's why we have healthcare inflation. Healthcare costs, those work against us, right? So if you retire before Medicare, I don't think anyone here, you guys might be before Medicare. Yeah. You're going to look at $800 to $1,000 a month in healthcare costs. Okay. So pre-Medicare. Now you can go onto the exchange and they're going to look at your income, right? So there are ways we want to make sure we keep our income low so that it doesn't cost you more than that. So that's per month. And then Medicare is going to be about that, $300 to $400 a month. And it can be really good coverage, right?
I'm working on
You're working on it, yeah, because you just
it.
started.
I'm
That's right.
waiting for Stephanie to call, but she's busy,
Oh no, really? Oh,
so hopefully.
let me
I
think of
hear
who else
from
I
her.
know. Well, that's a shame. Okay. And then long-term care costs, right? So long-term care in this area is about $10,000 to $12,000 a month. Right? You think about that is, I have some women like, oh, I'm going to inherit money. I'm going to inherit money. Like, until that money is in your pocket, we can't bet on it because it can go very quickly with long-term care costs. We have a client and her father was in Tennessee. That's where she was from. Not Tennessee, sorry, Mississippi. He had dementia for 15 years. She goes, we spent about $1 million. And like, he was very wealthy. He was in the banks. He's on the board of a bunch of banks, a lot of shareholder stock. So they were able to pay for it and still have money left. If it was here, probably be about $3 million. Okay. So long-term care costs can really work against us. And some people, my good friends, grandmothers, like, we're going to go out to Lancaster, PA for a nursing home because it's only a few $1,000s a month. But then who's visiting her? What are the expectations of people to come and visit you? That's a big trip. You can't just do that in a day. And so she actually moves closer after a few years. So it's also, think about the cost, but also the logistics of it, where you're going to go. You know, my grandmother was in Lakewood, which was pretty reasonable, right? So you can go South Jersey and it'd be a little bit better for you. Okay. Tax rates. So we do pay taxes in. We do pay taxes in retirement. What do we pay tax on? We pay tax on IRA withdrawals, right? 401k money. So anything that's not a Roth IRA, but a traditional 401k or IRA. Any pension money. And this is on the federal level, right? Some states are better with pension money and Social Security.
I thought New Jersey was pretty good with pension money.
New Jersey has gotten very good with retiree tax rates. Very good.
And is it based off of what your income is in retirement?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not what your assets are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a lower tax bracket.
Yes. Some of Social Security will get taxed if you earn over certain income levels.
Mm-hmm.
So either 50% or 85% of your benefit could get taxed. And I'm sure that's going to change. But years ago, none of it was taxed. And it's kind of redundant. Okay, we're going to tax the tax. You pay tax on this money to save for it, but now we're going to tax it again. We're going to whittle down your money more and more. Okay. If you have, obviously, working income, part-time income, passive income, all that stuff is going to get taxed. So I'll be like, well, what am I going to pay taxes on? A lot of your income. We'll pay taxes on. What works against is high expenses that I talked about before, right? Our expenses affect how much money we take out of our retirement accounts and affect us. And it really is all relative to what's the cost of your life? How much does it cost for you to maintain your quality of life goes into your expenses. And I have couples who can retire on a few $100,000 because they barely spend anything, right? And then I have couples who can't even retire on $2 million because of how much they spend. So when people come to me, I have one couple and he did all these projections himself. He's a really analytical engineer. Yeah, he did all these projections of retirement income. I go, well, where are your expenses? I haven't done the expense analysis yet. It's like, you just got to go through, write down what you spend on a monthly basis. And I'm like, I can't give you any advice until I know what you're spending. I really can't. It looks like you have a good amount of assets, but you say that you're overspending now on, well into the six-figure salary. You know, if you're spending well over I think it was like $300,000 or $400,000 that they're earning, well, then that sum of money isn't going to go very far at all, right? So they're still working on it. I'm going to get back to me. You got to get back to me before the baby comes. Work on that analysis. Right? Our expenses affect our high withdrawal rates and then poor investment performance. It just makes me think. There's a couple. She's been coming to my events. She's actually my first retirement club. She's like, you know what? I said to my husband, screw it. I'm moving my investments over to Jessica. You can stay where you are if you want to. So she moved over her investments. Her son, her daughter, he's still with the other advisors. He's kind of like pouting in the corner. But their other advisors was from Raymond James. So when everything came over, I could see exactly what her performance was. So her performance since 2013, 14, I could see, was about 2-3%.
Really?
She's like, yeah, he didn't charge us much. I was like, well, I would hope not, because you're not getting very much benefit from him. And I said that to her, and I'm like, and it seems very similar. I mean, her husband's invested almost the same way. And it's a good sum of money. Like, now he's just being stubborn because he's not getting very much money. But that's poor investment. That's how many years that she's lost on good returns for their money. That can be a complete game changer for somebody's situation. So poor investment returns can really eat away at a retirement plan. And whenever we do these retirement plans, it's not like we're gonna earn 20% each year, right? We're not assuming some aggressive, insane rate of return. But 2 or 3%, I mean, you might as well almost just have the money in the bank account at that rate. And to go through the hassle of the ups and downs of the markets to get really nowhere over several years and stuff. So always making sure what our investment, they're working for us, right? They're not working against us. And how much, and we've talked about this, how much our strategy is going to shift as you get closer to retirement and then in retirement and through retirement. My dad said he had a call with a client and he said, I'm going to retire in 2 years. Let's move everything to cash. Well, we can't do that because you're not going to retire and then that's it. We still have 30, 40 years to have investments for, to have keys for you to withdraw money from. Right? We can't become that conservative and move everything into cash. So always understanding the reason behind the investments. Okay, what's in our control, right? We focus so much on what we can't control. What's in our control? Our expenses are always in our control, right? So they're always in our control. Employment income, somewhat, is in our control. Passive income, withdrawal rates, right? That goes hand in hand with expenses. Okay. So whenever something's not work, we can always rework the expenses, which brings us to, we'll do a few minutes here. What are our top 5 spending priorities, non-recurring? So this could be travel, it could be a house, a renovation, moving out of state. What would be your top 5 spending priorities?
In retirement
In
or
retirement,
now?
yeah.
In retirement.
Because it comes back to the question of how much is enough. When we don't understand how much is enough, we're always going to be chasing more and more and more. right? And I even do this for my own life before retirement. Like, what is it like? What are we trying to get to? So we're not constantly chasing more and more and more, right? Because there's always going to be more. Then you're never satisfied. So take a few minutes. What are your top 5 spending? This could be one time. It could be every so often. Expenses. New car. And can you put a dollar amount next? An estimate. Anybody want to give shout out what one of theirs is? Travel. That's always a big one. Travel.
Grandkids.
Grandkids. Grandkids and travel.
I put lifestyle, and what I mean by that is like taking different classes that I'm interested in, hobbies, things like that.
That's a good one.
I call it fun.
Yeah, that's a good one, Dawn. Everyone, Dawn's Braveheart Center is
Yeah.
over. Yeah, so everyone's gonna get to see
Oh, I
it.
can't go, right, I'm away.
That's it.
We'll do it again next year.
Home repair.
Home repair. I was gonna say anything with the house.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, housing for sure.
Home repair or buying a house, moving.
That's the problem. That's the biggest problem, taxes and keeping the house.
Mhm.
All the expenses on the house,
Yeah.
you cannot separate them.
Mm-hmm. So the next step would be to start, okay, what do I think the costs are going to be for all these, right? Because then we can start putting them into the plan. What's realistic? Like, do I need to rein myself in, or can I go for it? And getting an idea. Who was I talking about? I was talking with a young woman who grew up. She basically supported herself from very young on. Both of her parents were substance abusers. So she wanted a program for children who were dealing with substance abuse parents where they can have an outlet through exercise. But she kind of got overwhelmed with the whole idea. It's like, well, do you even know the dollar amount it would cost for you to start it, get it up and running for a year or so? So start there, because when you don't know, you get so overwhelmed with it, and you completely put it on the back burner. I know I did that. I wanted an office close to my house for so long. Like, it's going to be too much money. Why am I going to waste money on that? I'll just keep commuting and traveling and stuff. And then I have my daughter Andy, and I had to find time in my day. I was talking to someone. She's like, well, how much do you think it really is? I'm like, I don't know, $2,000. And she told me what she was paying. I'm like, oh, well, that's completely doable. But I had this notion in my mind of how much money it's going to be that prevented me from doing anything to move forward with it. Same thing with these. Okay, like, what is the amount of money, right? I have one woman and she wants to do a porch on her house. Well, do you know exactly how much money is it going to be? No. I think it's going to be this amount. I think it's a big project. Okay, well, why don't you get a few quotes or different ideas from people too? Does it have to be a full porch? Could it just be an awning? Get some ideas. Okay, so this is non-recurring. What about recurring? What do you think are going to be your top spending priorities in retirement? Recurring. Okay, there you go.
Insurance, yes.
Mhm. Taxes.
Taxes. Mm-hmm. I think
Because that's where the keeping house should come in.
I think
just
everyone
expenses,
here,
I mean,
Yeah,
the house will be paid off or
normal
some paid off.
expenses, right?
Yeah,
Like,
normal
uh,
expenses.
Yours, yeah. But
Property tax.
we'll have a plan to get it paid off within
Yes.
a certain amount of
Yep.
time, right? So that
Utilities.
at some
utilities,
only be a certain amount of time,
Right.
right? A limited amount, temporary.
Mhm.
And you have those high
Post
expenses. I know
opportunity.
you're like, I'm moving out of state. Yeah, she's from the
I'm out of
south.
here.
She's like, I don't know, you guys are crazy to pay this amount of money. I'm moving out of state.
And then you have a big flood insurance and big hurricane insurance. One way have a dozen another. It's
Yeah.
not, nothing is for
Mhm.
free.
Amy, you and Susan have a lot in common. She has a place in Bradley, and you have places in Ortley.
Mhm.
That was a big decision for you.
Yeah, scary, right?
Yeah.
But you just have to do it.
It was.
Yeah.
It was scary for me too. Still scary. I'm thinking of doing other things now.
Any update on that?
I'm waiting to hear if they're gonna accept the offer.
You
If
still
they
waiting?
do,
Okay.
yeah, I did
I
put
was
the
gonna ask
offer
you
in,
tonight.
but it's one price. I'm not going back in.
Good.
I'll accept it or I'm gone.
There you go. Good. Okay. So it's really, the more clear we are with how we're spending our money, the easier it is for us to plan and to be realistic with our plan and accurate with our projections, right? So many times I see advice, oh, I gave you a budget of $8,000 a month. Like, is that realistic? Do they know? Because I promise you, a $10,000 swing in expenses over 30 years, that's a huge difference.
That's a chunk of change.
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge difference for it. Okay. So these are the ones I want you guys to take at 6:30 now. Okay, let's take a few minutes to go through these questions and you can journal them down. First one, before we even get to this, is what is my biggest fear for retirement? What is my biggest fear?
For me, being single, being incapacitated and not having someone to take care of me. Or being a burden.
Being a
I
burden,
guess
yeah.
saying it a different way, being a
Right.
burden on, my family who has their own kids and their own stuff that they have to do.
And you know what, it happened, my neighbor right next door, I live in the townhouse. The girl was single, they used to talk. And she didn't hear from her in a while, and then 2 weeks later, they find her body decomposed, laying there all alone. So, like all of a sudden, you come to conclusion, you really need like somebody that you can talk at least every
Yeah.
3 days or 2 days,
Yeah.
especially like in my
Yeah,
case, I have
yeah.
no children,
Yeah.
probably it will be the same thing. I mean, drop dead and the smell will.
I do
Make
tell
somebody
people
to the house.
that I know that if you don't hear from me in a couple of days, make
Yeah.
sure you find out what's going on.
This
Yeah.
was just such a
I climb ladders in my house. I do all kinds of things.
Yeah, the same thing with me and one
Yeah.
of my friends. We both live alone, and we're like,
Yeah.
if I could drop dead and nobody would know unless
And
somebody calls.
and she exactly that's what happened
Yeah.
to her.
That happened to my ex.
And she just
Yeah.
turned 60. She moved to the
Yeah,
big
so geez.
house.
And he we don't know how long he laid there, but yeah, he was,
Really?
yeah. And the only reason why they found him is he had a routine. Every day he'd order
Mm.
Chinese food,
And he stopped ordering
and
Chinese.
his sister sent him a package, and it sat on his doorstep.
Oh my God.
And the neighbors saw it sitting there for a couple of days and called the
Finally
police.
said something. See, I'm in a condo as well, and to get into my unit, you have to go up a flight of stairs. And that was fine when I was younger, but I'm like, oh my God. And I was in a car accident last year that screwed up my back and leg, or knee. So now I go, and also my dog is like a herder. So he's like, oh, let's go.
Oh, so at least you have a
So-
dog.
Well, yeah, but he'll be eating my
The
body.
dog-
They were no happened. The dog and the cat were sitting next to her when the police found her,
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
And and she said, what a mistake she made because the smell is still with her. That's bad it was. I mean, I cannot imagine her. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are quite, like my grandmother, I mean, it did happen to her. My cousin found her the next day in her bed. But she was in a community where you would go to the the main house
For meals and stuff.
for 1 to 2 meals, or at least just to get your newspaper, right? So she wouldn't have gone more than a day because they wouldn't have alerted us. So there are places like, right, go get your newspaper, just pop in, and they all had golf carts. It was kind of fun. You just hop in your golf cart and go to the house or the main building and stuff. But yeah, I mean, my husband's a cop, so he sees it
Yeah.
a lot. Or you have those the necklaces.
Mhm.
So if
The
you
medical
fall, yeah,
But
rip
you
it
know
off.
what you
But
think?
you
think you are
60 years
too young.
old.
I know
you
this
don't
is
think
when
you
you don't
need it.
think about necklace, because
Right.
Oh, yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
I'll be 65. I don't think I'm like
Yeah,
senior
I mean,
and I'm
like,
old,
When my
right?
cousin's husband died at 40-something years old, had a heart attack, right? She found him in the bathroom. But like, what if she wasn't there?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
long would it have been before somebody came looking for him? When he didn't show up to work. That's what I say. If I don't show up to work, somebody's gonna start wondering where I am.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. And right now, I'm not working. So yeah, there's no one checking up. But that's
that's
what we do. Like my one friend, my mother calls me a lot, so she might start to worry. But yeah.
Well, you do, so like all of this happened also,
But it's
where
not
are
like
all
somebody's coming into your house every day and
Yeah.
saying,
Mhm.
like,
Also, where are your papers? If I drop dead at the moment, no one will
Oh, I
find
told
anything.
my kids where they
And
were.
I'm like,
See, somebody needs to
okay,
figure it
I
out.
have to get organized.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not just a burden, but it's getting hurt or
It's scary,
passing away
yeah.
alone
Yes.
and not having
It
that,
is sad, no one to serve you a cup of tea, no one to feel sorry for you.
Move it into somebody.
Exactly.
Golden Girls.
I just everything goes Golden Girls, the whole house, community, retirement clubhouse. Okay. So biggest fear. So write down your biggest fear, and then how are you going to feel secure going into retirement? What has to happen for you to feel secure to make that transition? Is it having a money plan, a health plan? Is it having something like me to always go to when these things come up? Is it to have connections and resources with women? Is it for your loved one to know exactly where all your financial affairs are? Okay.
When I'm gone, I don't care.
How will you feel secure going into retirement?
Take care of my daughter. I have that set up. It's not weird. My nephew's like, I'll be the godfather.
Well, I have it in my wall.
Do you? I have to do that. Hopefully they'll be gone before me, but you never know.
It's basically like, what is the biggest hurdle I have to overcome to get myself the
Yeah.
mindset of retirement or the money wise for retirement?
You know what? It is money, and I think that's the big question, because you can get a file cabinet saying, okay, everything in here is my will, my living will, my this, that, whatever. You can, long-term care, you can buy that insurance or whatever. You can get all this in order, but what's the magic number that I'm going to need?
Yeah, you see that.
Because right
picture?
now, if I have $2 million of assets, I'm still nervous. Is that going to be enough?
Yeah.
To not be a burden.
Mm-hmm. So it's that fear,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of
right?
the
How do we
unknown.
overcome
Yeah.
that fear?
Because everything costs money.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know how
Everything.
bad it could be. Like, you may get cancer or something like that, and that's going to take a lot more money than
Right,
if
right,
you're
right.
holding steady and
Mhm.
maintaining your own. It's the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Dawn?
Well, I think, that's a big, excuse me. I agree with that. Like, what if you get sick? And like, for me, I own my own business, and it's like, I'm single, so there's no one else to rely on besides me. And you know what I mean? So it's like, there's a lot of things, and how do I build into my company ways to take care of myself down the line, right? And that's just what we're working on. But it's definitely a little bit scary of losing my independence financially and physically, right? Because if I have to rely, I don't have children, so like, I fear that I'm going to be like the crazy old aunt that, I'm a burden to everyone, and that's horrendous.
Yeah. Donna Vera, you're an example of passive income in retirement. If you keep your Braveheart Center going, and she just gets income from it, too.
Absolutely.
Sorry, side note for that. Okay, so it's the money.
It all goes back to the money.
Money.
Because even
money
if you,
for everything.
if you want to have even fun, no
Yeah.
matter what you do, I know you say there's some free things.
You can go hiking.
Even, that's kind of, you know.
The beach isn't even free.
No.
Exactly.
You gotta drive there, so you gotta get gas in your
You
car.
have to pay all the costs and pay a fortune, which is ridiculous, like it should be free,
Leaving.
Only in New Jersey.
Yeah, no, that's what and it really is the beliefs, right? And that's part of, I think the education helps with the beliefs. Understand, okay, I have this amount of money set aside. What is that going to translate day in, day out for me
You never.
with my expenses? Right? Am
Well,
I
all those calculators, and I don't know
Yeah.
how true they are. Even Social Security has a calculator.
and a lot of them, you have to understand what assumptions are they taking, because we have to take some assumptions. I think the biggest thing is to do it every year, right? With our clients, we do it every year, every time we meet her. As circumstances change, because things do change, right? Our health changes, where we live changes, taxes change, right? Things that aren't in our control, and always adjusting the plan and rerouting us if we need to, and it go back. So I think a big thing is understanding and having the education on it. Right? Nobody tells us how taxes and Social Security are going to affect my overall picture,
Right.
and what does that look like, and that's why we break it down here. Okay, dollar-wise, how is this stuff going to affect us?
I think it's also good, and the reason why I'm here in the club is because the fear of what you don't know. Like, every time I have a meeting with you, you get me thinking about things. I'm like, oh God, I never thought about that. Or I took care of that a while back. I thought I was done, but maybe I didn't go to the right person for my will, or maybe I didn't go to the right person. So I think that's the great thing that you're doing here, is you're talking about things that would have never crossed my mind. I wouldn't have read about in Money Magazine. And so it's the fear of that unknown as well,
That's so everyone here, we did an assessment, right? I think everyone did an assessment. Did you guys do an assessment? I think so. During our one-on-ones, we did an assessment. So the first club, I had them take it at the end. Okay, so they wanted to see, how did their confidence improve? And all of them said, I'm more aware now. So their confidence, it did go up, but didn't go as much, because now they're more aware of the things that are affecting
Now they're
us.
even more scared.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Good
it's
job,
like,
Jessica.
not at this point, I'm going to use again. Falling asleep.
And
And that
yours is close.
But I think the biggest thing that stresses us out is when we don't know things.
Yeah.
The unknown, right? Just like the money, right? How much a thing's going to cost us. If we don't know the dollar amount, we get more stressed over than actually knowing and stuff. So this is the foundation, the planning for all of this. And then as we execute and we implement it, that's what helps you get over those hurdles and things. And that's why this is about, okay, identifying what are the biggest risks, right? What are the biggest fears? What are the biggest risks? How do we take care of our money to make us feel secure? Does that make sense? So that's let's go through. And that's kind of what I wanted to go into tonight. To go, okay, what is going to be my project during this time in the club, so that I feel like, one, I'm getting stuff done, two, to hold us accountable, everything. So that's, I want you to think about, what is the biggest fear, the biggest risk to my own retirement, that we can figure out how do we then make sure the money is taken care of to protect or manage that risk or fear. Make sense?
The funny thing is, when you then start taking the money, you're still scared that you're taking the money out of your savings that you save your whole life. That's,
Well, even when you're on the other side, you already are retired. You're still
I
scared.
have to dip into my savings, and it's a scary thought. And
Yeah.
how much is enough?
And how do you know you don't need it next
Exactly.
year, right?
And it's really,
Yeah.
and there is no income except, like your social security and what you say. That's
Mhm.
it.
So I want to
Now, how long
share.
have you been retired?
Just, well,
2
it
years?
was, no, 1 year was in June.
Okay. So we were talking about being more aware of things and stuff. So I was talking to my husband, and I was kind of like going over what I'm going to do tonight. He's actually very good with my nonstop talking about my work. He's very supportive with it. Yeah, he's like, all right, she's on her tangent again. But my husband, he's a police officer, and he's also part of the CERT team in Morris County, which is their SWAT team. Stuff. So he does a lot of extra training. They do training with Green Berets, with Navy SEALs. And whenever he has these classes, usually 1 to 2 weeks long, he's like, it's like drinking from a fire hose.
Mhm.
They have so much experience, so much now that they're trying, and they only have a limited amount of time with us to throw at us and throw at us and throw at us. He's like, and then we get an ounce of stress, and we're like, you know, put an ounce of pressure, they put them in a situation, like, I don't know what to do. So they're bringing on 4 new guys to their CERT team this week, and they're doing a class, and my husband's been helping out and stuff. He's like, yeah, it's the same thing that happens to us. Like, we're flooding them with information. They only can take in so much. And they're like, I don't know, it's day 2.
Oh,
Literally
wow.
day 2 for it. No. But that's why I want to do more these hot season interactions, because it is a lot of information, and I could go on forever and ever about this stuff. But I want to make sure that it's hitting you where it needs to hit, and it's resonating with you, and you can actually walk away with stuff instead of just becoming aware of everything and not knowing what to do with all this knowledge. That makes sense?
Yes.
I also think the more times you hear it, the more
Mhm.
inclined you are to get it done. You know, you have to hear
Right.
it more than once.
My business coach was very good at that. She's like, you will hear it multiple times. At one point, you'll be ready to actually take that information in.
Right.
And she's like, I'm planting seeds, right?
Mhm.
You're noodling it, right? It's being tossed around in your conscious or subconscious. Then when you can apply it, it hits home.
Yeah.
When you're ready to take in that information, it hits home and stuff. Okay. So who would like to go first? I want to know biggest fear, right? Biggest hurdle that we have to overcome. Who wants to go first?
I would say long-term care.
Long-term care?
Yeah, that was my
All right,
biggest
do
fear.
then. Long-term care is your biggest fear.
Mhm.
What is it about the fear? What is it about long-term care?
It's just, I don't want to fall back on my kids because they've got kids in college. Yeah, I want to be able to pay
Okay.
for that myself.
Okay, be a burden. So it's the money,
It's money.
The money, yeah.
but is it also them having to take time out of their life to, okay, now we have to find mom the right place, sell her house, get her things there, make
Yeah.
sure that we're going to put her in a place that's good for her,
Mhm.
because I hear that a lot, right? We looked at a lot of places. We feel guilty putting mom here or dad here.
Yeah, and they will.
And that takes a lot of, so taking that off with them too.
Yeah.
I think that big decision of, do we stay at home first? Do we try to make that work? Do we just put her in a facility? Right?
Mhm.
What's the whole plan? Too. Okay. What else about long-term care?
I guess draining everything that I own, all of my assets to pay for it.
And
If
then
I
all
can-
that money you worked. Because what would,
Yeah, because I do want to leave it to my
I was in an ideal world, what would you want to happen
beneficiaries.
to your assets? You live to 99, 105. What would you want
I'd
to
like
happen?
leave it to my kids.
Okay. So inheritance. Okay. I'm just put my timer on to make sure of that. Inheritance. Okay, so it's you all the money that you worked for, all the years that you worked, and the thought of it just going to a nursing home. Like, right.
But what choice do you have?
I was single. She was in my first club. Now she's a client, and she has a good sum of money. Single, no kids. So part of her will, her mom's still living, is for her mom to get most of her assets. You know, if your mom goes into a nursing home,
Mm.
that's where your assets are going to go because her mom doesn't have any And think about this too. The mom goes into a nursing home, has no assets while her daughter Lon is still living. The mom goes on to Medicaid. Now all of a sudden Lon passes away before her. She inherits this money. She goes off of Medicaid. You know what a nightmare that is? And the paperwork just to get her onto Medicaid. And then who's handling all of that? Who's taking care of the money for the mom if mentally she's not there?
Right.
So one of her things in the club was, and we're still working on, is like, I'm gonna go with you. We're gonna go to the state attorney's office, right? We did that together to make sure it's taken care of. Okay. So they inherit, so it doesn't just all go to
Losing my mind is my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's or dementia,
mm-hmm.
because that's, that's what scares me the most. And you don't know.
That brings up a point. Is there any piece of the long-term care, Susan, where it's, I can't physically be myself anymore?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've taken care of everybody, my
Yeah.
whole life. And yeah, it would be very difficult for me to have somebody take care of me.
Like, who's had surgery recently? How much does it suck to be able to take care of yourself?
I did though.
Yeah. And whenever I had surgery, I took care of myself too. I
The
mean,
only thing
everybody had
for
to
me
leave.
was like I couldn't drive, asking people to go buy me food.
Yes.
And I hated doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I had
Yeah,
my,
when I had my accident last
Yeah.
year, same thing. My neighbors were like, "We'll take the dog for a walk," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." But then I was out there like shuffling along.
yeah.
The day
You're like, I'm
after
going
all
to
this
do
stuff.
everything that I possibly can. I might
Yeah.
hurt myself even more. It's just I don't have to ask somebody for
Yeah,
help.
that and shoveling my driveway in the wintertime. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest fear, my health not maintaining, because if you have to keep working, if you're healthy, you can do that. You can go shake the bush, you can do what you need to do. But if you don't have your health, that messes with your head, your body. That's everything. And clearly, if you're an independent person who's always taking care of yourself, that's even harder. It's because you're not used to asking for help, and you may not even have a network that you feel comfortable asking them. And
Yeah.
and that's scary.
It's another reason so many single women I work with are scared to leave New Jersey. Financially, they can barely afford to stay here, but like my network's here,
Right.
my support, my handyman's here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge.
Who am I
because-
going to go to if
Yeah, because as you get older, like people are established, you move somewhere where they're already established, they're not very welcoming. They're not. I've been here 20 years and I'm always friends with the transplants. I'm never friends with the native people because they already have their network of people. They grew up with them,
Yeah.
so that's a very real concern.
Okay.
That's how I felt moving my senior year of high school.
That's a hard move, senior year of high school. Yeah.
Hated New Jersey. That's when I moved to New Jersey.
Oh,
Hated
so-
it. Hated it.
Yeah.
Because it's the same kind of thing.
Like
It's
that's a
like,
really hard time in your life.
nobody wanted to
You have
be
1
kid,
year
right.
left to get through in high
Yeah,
school.
it's like everybody had their friends.
Everyone
They
had
were
their cliques.
established, their history.
Yeah.
I don't keep in touch with anybody from that
Mhm.
year.
I was born and raised there. I don't keep in touch with anybody from high school.
It's like-
I don't friend anybody on Facebook.
Never felt like I belonged. You're always the outsider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Okay. So being a burden money wise.
Mhm.
So how do we overcome that? How do we pay for it? So we've
Well,
been
we
looking at
talked
different
about it,
options,
yeah.
right? Georgia and I, we've gone through this too. There is traditional long-term care policy. There's a life hybrid. There's also an annuity long-term care hybrid, right? So there are vehicles that we can use to help pay for it. Problem with long-term care is we really don't know how long we're going to be in there for. Okay, so this isn't the one solution for everything. Okay, this goes in with this too, right? Inheritance, right? The less I'm pulling from my assets, the less of a chance I'm going to be a burden financially, but also the better my chance of leaving an inheritance. So these, we have to go hand in hand. So an inheritance, estate attorney, or elder care attorney, right? And I have some attorneys that they do both work. They do a lot of work in both regards. Okay. So let's find a way to pay for a good chunk of the care should I need it? I'm not a big fan of these because it's all or nothing, right? I pay for a long-term care policy. If I never use it, money's gone. It's kind of like disability insurance while we're working. Okay. The other issue is it's very expensive, and you still have to pay that premium in retirement. And one of the goals is let's get our expenses down for that type of stuff so we have more money for the fun stuff. Okay. So for me, I'm like, it doesn't really work for us that well, right, in a rural plan. These are good options because if I don't use it, if I pass away, my heirs get it, or I can take the money out of the policy. I can loan myself the money. Or the annuity, I can just use it as an annuity without the long-term care. Or I can take the money out of the annuity. Say I'm 95, oh, screw it, I'm not worried anymore. I'm taking the money out. Or your heirs can inherit it, right? So these, at least, is not all or nothing, like the traditional policy. But when we bring in the estate attorney, because we can also protect some assets in the form of a trust to get assets out of our name so that, say, this policy will pay for $400,000 of nursing home, right? About 3-4 years of a nursing home. Okay, then maybe I have to go onto, I can go into Medicaid and have the rest of my assets protected. And at least I know that money's going to my heirs. Okay. So we can do that via trust, which we actually, on the back of your sheets, is kind of our legacy checklist. It's so much of retirement planning comes back to the legacy because we have the long-term care, which comes into that stuff. So we'll kind of go into this thing. Okay. So we're going to pay for some of the costs. We're going to protect the rest of the money, or as much money as we can for your trust. Okay, I know your kids or your grandkids, I know at least they're going to get this amount of money. At least I know they're going to get my house or my bank money, whatever it is. Then we also have the logistical plan. The logistics, and we do cover this in one of our events, one of our live things. Okay, so this breaks it down to, okay, am I staying at home first or am I going to a nursing home, right? What level care do I want to start, or where do I want to start my care? If you're at home, and it is a pain in the butt to get good caretakers at home, I have one woman and she's like, we are constantly hiring and firing people. I always have to be there to supervise and stuff. So it's okay. If I am home, what was the one company's name? Oh, it's a really catchy name. It's some agency. There's a ton of the agencies. Like, okay, this is the agency we're going to use. This is how much it's going to cost. This is where the money's going to come from first, or whatever it is, right? This is how we're going to pay for it in the beginning. Next up's a nursing home. This is where I'm going to go. These are a few options that I like. Sell my house or rent out my house. This is the organizer you can call for organizing, right? Cecilia, her friend, just started this company to do this exact thing. Use Cecilia. She's going to take care of all my belongings. Know what to sell, what to donate, what things are worth, how to get rid of things, how to clear up the house. These are the possessions that I want you to have that I want to come with me to the nursing home. Right? All those everything. This is a bill person who's going to pay my bills for me, so you don't have to worry about my bills being paid every month. Okay? These are all the different resources we can have on hand as part of the plan. Right? Even knowing, okay, your bills are going to get paid. Here's the accountant that you can use to file my taxes. They're not going to be very complicated at this point. Mm-hmm. Here's the attorney to go to who has a power of attorney for me, so that everyone who needs a certified copy of the power of attorney can get one. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we want to break down what is the fear, what is the actual problem. Long-term care, it hits us a few different ways. And then even just the piece of, I'm not going to be able to do stuff for myself, or I won't mentally be there, or we're still working on that. Okay. But that's why we want to look at, when I was on the call with the one woman who's like, her neighbor told her, once you get $250,000, I have a guy for you. You don't want to just start investing the money. You want to break it down into the plan so that it actually makes sense for you now and down the road. We're not just going to throw you into an investment because, oh, it's done really well the past year. Okay, what does that mean for my long-term care concern? Okay, so this helpful, students, everybody? Because I think this was really the hot topic was tonight, right? Okay. Who has a different type of concern? And I'm not saying that this isn't one of your concerns, but another concern. Who has maybe outliving your money? Yeah. Just not bending down. My grandmother lived to 98, and her sister lived to 100.
Oh, wow.
My grandfather, he worked on the railroad his entire life. Retired at 62. And 6 or 8 months later, passed away.
See, that's what I don't
from
understand.
leukemia. Thank God he picked the survivor option for his pension. Because my grandmother lived 35 plus years on that and a little bit of Social Security she had. Because back then, think about that age of retirees, they didn't have a lot of assets, right? Social Security and the pension was really it. They might have had some CDs, some random stocks, their life insurance was probably $5,000, $10,000 for the burial costs and stuff. So longevity is a reality. Right? It is a real risk. So who's what?
Who has longevity in our family?
Who has longevity on their mind? Like, how am I fitting this? Sorry, ladies.
Michael strikes again.
You know,
Mikey.
if you can be healthy, then it doesn't matter. If you're independent, you know, then you can live till 90. Or if you have all your things, and you know, I know this gentleman finally at 95, he's getting trembled and fails, you know, and keeps falling, you know, but otherwise until this moment, okay, I mean, his daughter makes him some stuff and he walks with the walker, but you know, his brain is all there.
I met a guy over the weekend, 96 years old, sharp as could be, nicest guy ever, still getting around. That's
So, see,
awesome.
that's
He
lucky.
was amazing, great sense of humor, like just, I was like, wow. 96.
It's amazing how you can look at two 80-year-olds,
Yeah.
and one could seem like they're
Really
100, and one could seem
different,
like they're 60.
You can look at 60-year-olds that way
That's
too.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, some people just act older,
Right.
or they don't take care of themselves, or they kind of isolate.
It's your attitude. So much of
Yeah.
it is your attitude.
Agree.
And stuff. So we got to get ourselves there.
Yep.
I know when we do our projections, like 95, 100, like, I don't want to live that long. But what if you're having the time of your life?
Yeah, if it's quality living.
Yes. I have one woman, and she goes, I'm going to live to 85, and then I'm going to,
Die in my sleep.
and then I'm going to walk myself into the ocean.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Okay, let's think. Now you're 80. Imagine you are 85, and now you have grandkids, right? You're healthy. You have your mindset. But she wasn't saying past that with her money.
Calendar. Going on to the beach.
Anybody watch
I'm sorry.
Grace and
Dark
Frankie?
Yeah, I
watched
know.
it.
Yeah, that was.
Well, last night it was, have you watched the whole series?
Well, I think I only watched.
Oh,
some parts.
well.
But
Why am I
what
thinking
do
it's
you watch? I have to watch on Netflix.
I watch it on Netflix.
Oh, so there's
Oh, you
more
could-
parts?
Oh, yeah,
Then maybe
yeah.
I'm gonna put it with the funny
So what
there.
does she do?
Well, Babe had terminal cancer, and she was throwing this party. It's with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin.
Oh, yes, I've heard of
They're
that
hilarious.
show.
And she
That's
was throwing this party, and she was committing suicide after the party. You know, like this was her last
This was her
hurrah.
last hurrah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and Lily
Wow.
Tomlin, she picked her to help her.
funny.
They're a riot, I'm telling you.
Those are two hilarious ladies.
They are.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen is on
Oh,
it.
wow.
Yeah, it's a good show. if it wants just like stupid
Yeah, they said,
entertainment.
yeah, they said, think that, after 40 years, the husbands that left,
Yes, yeah.
they fall in love with one
Yeah,
another.
the husbands were partners and
They
fell
were
in
good
love. Yeah,
friends.
yeah, yeah. It's hilarious.
But it's
But
really
that,
not.
yeah, she was under that concept. I'm like, okay, but what if you actually are enjoying life?
Mhm. But
Why
it
we
goes
didn't
through
plan
all of
past
this.
that?
If you watch the series, they do get to
Oh.
the end where, you know, they didn't like each other when their husbands were partners, but now they live together in this beach house and they're getting
Okay, I
older
didn't come
and
to
yeah, so it's a good show. It has a lot it's very relevant to what we're talking about right now.
Oh, that's
How they
funny.
take
on
care
the
of
list.
each
Yeah,
other.
I love that.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
I had another woman I was speaking actually for a church group, and she goes, "Yeah, my advisor told me I have enough money till the time I'm 85." She was 83.
God.
I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
one, that scares
Can
the
you just lie to
crap
me?
out of
then?
me. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're like,
exactly.
you really need to get another
Give me your
opinion
card
Yeah.
so I can get a new advisor.
or what.
Oh,
And I'm like, okay, so what's the plan? Because she
2
was
years, you're
perfectly
screwed.
healthy, perfectly fine. I'm like, does death know that? Like, okay, come at my door when I hit 85. But it's crazy because it really, especially we're living longer and longer, right? Technology's getting better. Hopefully healthcare's getting better and stuff. But we are living a lot longer and stuff. So outliving our money can be a reality, right? And I don't think anyone here wants to just eat cat food once they hit that point. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You're talking about cat food is, aren't you? Okay. So outliving your money. What else comes along with the longevity?
I think the network, because let's say you do, relocate, you assimilate, you get your group of friends, but if you're all
Everybody
in the same age
dies.
range or what have you, then
And you left the
yeah.
bar.
And
Mhm.
and being single, I'm not gonna have kids to come visit, so it's my nieces and nephews and siblings if they're if they're capable and once I get to that age, they're gonna have their own kids, their own lives, and they're gonna be scattered. So that's gonna be a hard thing, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
my mom's in her 80s, and I guess a couple years ago, a lot of the people that she knew for a very long time that she was very friendly with started to die.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And she said, "My friends are dying."
and that's sad.
She's
Yeah.
like,
And then you
it
become the
hit her
last
hard.
one.
It hit her hard because she was like, all these people that were like my people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that's
That happened to my
reality.
mother-in-law. She died at 98.
Yeah.
Yeah, of everybody that she knew died before her.
Because it's also
She was-
your life
she was all alone.
experiences.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember where you were when? Fill in the blank. Princess Diana, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And when you're the last of your siblings
Yeah.
Yeah,
too. That's a hard one.
that'll be hard.
So maybe, living to certain age and then.
Walk in the ocean.
Maybe that should be the plan.
No.
Please don't make that pact in here. Please don't make that pact. That would like haunt me.
No, flying to Switzerland and getting
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assisted death, yeah.
And stuff. Okay. So how do we make sure that we have plenty of money, right?
You
How
make
do
us
we-
do what we're supposed to do. It's all on you, Jessica.
And you know what? It could be, that when you turn 65, you say, you know what, you're good. And then inflation, whatever happens, and then all of a sudden you have to
When
go
the
back
bottom drops
to
out of the
work.
market like
Exactly.
2008.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And then here
big
you are,
projects, yeah.
70, 72, and you're like, oh my God, I have to go back to work. And
Mhm.
what does
You
that
wanna find a
mean? And
job.
yeah,
Who's gonna
who's going
take
to
you now?
hire me?
Yeah.
And yeah.
No, that's good. So
Shopway.
what affects?
Home Depot.
You see it.
What
You
are the
see it.
risks
You
to our
see it.
money?
There's certain jobs you're like, she would not be working in a diner if she didn't have to be.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that, you
Yeah,
know,
There's
and
a
that's
woman I
scary.
work with that has to be old. I mean, she shuffles around.
No, but I think some people
It's like,
enjoy
wow.
it.
Yeah.
really,
I'm
to
surprised
work.
she's still there.
I don't think busting tables at a diner or, you
That's
see
not
some.
easy work.
It
No,
is
it's
for
not
an
when you're
older
20.
person.
So yeah.
Yeah, so bad markets. Like what are ways that this can impact our risk to our money,
Unexpected health issues.
health issues? Okay, what else can affect longevity? Okay, high expenses. Have you noticed I say expenses a lot?
It's true.
It's all money.
Lack of
And
social
taxes,
security,
you know?
that's something I worry about.
Okay,
Yeah, Social Security goes away.
so what if Social Security or my pension?
Right.
Something happens,
I have to save.
changes. Okay. What else? Do we think of anything else that affects this? Let's go back to our factors. Inflation.
Oh,
This is one, right?
yeah.
We talked about inflation. Right? Because inflation is 3%. 3% on $100,000 is larger than 3% on $1 million of expenses. It starts to go up.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you don't even have the health issues, it's just if the inflation for healthcare or the costs go
Yeah.
progressively higher.
Yeah, right now it's 5%. That could.
Would you be able to?
Oh, it will.
Yeah, that's gonna continue to go
You don't
up,
have
so you
to
don't
be
want it to outpace.
careful with
Yeah.
The taxes, I mean. it's
We also
crazy.
have our very low historical tax rates. Like, what was the highest tax rate? Anyone know?
The highest?
Highest tax rate in the U.S.
The highest,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like for what, for
I'm gonna take a wild guess, say 15%. I mean, are you
What kind of
talking
taxes?
about
income tax?
Income taxes.
Income taxes. Oh, what is it now?
So what was the highest ever?
I don't know. 30%,
Was it-
I always
What do you
think.
think?
45?
42, 45?
I'm gonna say 30.
92%.
What?
For what?
When?
Ronald Reagan in $1 million in a movie, and he paid $900,000 in taxes. And when he went into office, he pushed them way down.
Oh,
Right before he got elected, it was over 92, 93%.
holy
Why was
cow.
that?
Because of his tax bracket?
That was the highest tax back was 92, 93%.
Wow.
Where was the incentive to work?
Exactly. So it's not going to get back to, I can't imagine never going back to that level. But you think of where we are now,
I'm
it's
gonna
very
research that.
low.
I wanna read about that.
That's fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah.
That explains why so many people still refer to him and revere him, because if he made that kind of a change,
Yeah.
now that makes more
Mhm.
sense.
Yes.
How could you do that though? who signed on to that? Like,
What happens, like, it just slowly creeps up.
that's
Right, we
a
notice it
massive
slowly creeps up. Oh, we're going to increase it with like
But how did
inflation
people
or-
even live like
Was that
that?
back in the 70s or
Yeah.
the 80s?
And that brings up too, remember inflation back
Oh yeah,
then was running rampant.
right.
Now, hopefully we've learned.
I gotta look that up.
The Federal Reserve has learned you can't just put money into a system and not have any consequences for it. Right. We can't change tax laws without it having consequences on our whole economy. So hopefully we've learned and stuff. But imagine you retire and then all of a sudden that inflation skyrockets.
I'm walking into the ocean.
Crap, I'm
Holding
scaring you guys
hands.
again.
Holding hands for the
Stop.
2019.
Don't go down.
Come on, guys,
Well,
let's
let's
go.
go into.
We'll call it the Ocean Club.
I don't want to know about it.
I'm dying in my sleep.
We'll wait for high tide.
You're like, Andrew, put a pillow over my face.
He might do that anyway.
And stuff. Okay. So how to outliving our money. So one way, and I'm not trying to push products or anything here. I'm just giving ideas of what things we can do and stuff. So one thing is like an annuity, which basically is our own pension fund, right? So if we have this huge fear of running out of money, we can put it, not all of our money, just some of our money into the right annuity. There are a ton of really bad annuities. I have a woman today. Her old advisor got into this annuity. She's like, I can probably get out of it. The anniversary is up. Let's do something. Okay. But how it works, if you pick the right annuity, let's say you put in $500,000 into an annuity, and you're in your 80s now, and you have spent well over $500,000. So there's not even a dime. There's like $1 left in the annuity. They still have to pay you out the same amount of money until you die, even if there's nothing left in the annuity. Okay? So basically what happens is the insurance company, because only insurance companies do annuities, they take on that risk. right, from you, of you outliving your money. They're going to take that bet with you. Yeah, they're not going to do it for free, right? And they can be a little bit more expensive. But if that is a real fear that you have, and it is a possibility, let's say a lot of people in your life, a lot of family members have lived very long, we can put some stuff into annuity to help manage, protect against that risk. Okay, we can never fully eliminate any of the risks, but I want to see how do we manage them as much as we can. Okay, does that make sense? Things like that. There's also the magical 4% rule. The annuity is taking on a lot more of this risk than you are. 4% rule, you still have a little bit of risk, and it's saying, historically, it shows if you take out only 4% from your accounts, your investment accounts, you should be fine. Meaning you're not gonna, and that 4%, that income goes up by inflation every year. You won't dip into your principal if it's invested properly. Okay. Now that's a gross amount of money. Remember, if you take out some money from our retirement accounts and we pay taxes on it, that falls in, you have to make sure all of that is under the 4%. Okay. So for you guys to go back to withdrawal rates, if you look at, so I said, put down the dollar amount of your assets for the income from investments or gains from investments. And then you can look, if I take out 4% of that money, what does that look like each year? Just to get an idea before we even project it out. Just to get an idea, what does that 4% look like? Okay. What does 5% look, 6%? Right. What is the percentage amount that I would have to get to replace my income today, but to live on today? And is that within the 4% realm or not?
Just kind of a question. If it's a couple, do you get to take out 8% or is it still 4%?
It's 4%. You can combine your assets,
Right.
right? So if you each have $1 million, now you have $2 million for 4%.
Right.
So you're not including property or anything like that. It's just assets.
Just assets that you can take an income from, that you can liquidate. That's a good question. So those are some ideas that we can help manage that risk. Network. This is where I have to get kind of creative and stuff. You have to find communities. I mean, communities are very big now, especially for retirees, where you go there and they basically have everything you need for them. Right? A lot of, like, my grandmother had like the continuous care, so she was in her own single house, but on the premise they had assisted living, a nursing home, skilled nursing, whatever they needed. So at least she's in that area, and it's, you buy in and you can keep progressing and
But
stuff.
that's a fortune, for a normal person. I don't think even if you have $1 million, that the money will go by really fast, isn't it? Like
So simply, like if you go
hear-
South Jersey, you can buy in for a few $100,000. So you take your house equity, you buy in, and then they'll keep your monthly amount a few $1,000s each month, okay? And then depending on the place, sometimes they'll, if you pass away, your heirs will receive some of the money back that you put down. And some places they'll eat all of it up, depending on.
So that's assisted living you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just-
Or even it could be independent living in a continuous care place.
Right.
Yeah.
My dad just moved into one, and it's a huge relief to know that he'll be taken care of. He has a 1-bedroom apartment,
There you go.
basically.
Mhm.
And if it comes time for him to go into assisted, he can either pay to have somebody come in and take care of him, and they handle all of that.
Yeah.
Until he can move to the next level, and it goes on. And so it's really nice. I mean, it's not cheap. I think it's like $3,000 a month, but he's going to sell his house. And he said even once he runs through all of that money between his pension and Social Security, he'll still be able to cover it. And that's huge peace of mind, because like what we were talking about earlier, I used to worry about him living alone. My mom died many years ago. And so if something had happened to him, he'd be laying there languishing, because I'm up here and my sister's in South Carolina. So, it's huge. And he has his little community, and, once he can't drive anymore, they'll shuttle him to church, his doctor's appointments and things like
Yeah,
that.
so
So that's
he's
huge.
in Carolina.
He's in North
Well, that's
Carolina.
much less expensive than
It is,
anything
but
in
it's
New
still not
Jersey
cheap.
or
I mean, it's not
Yeah,
cheap
no.
anywhere.
Yeah.
They have you over a barrel.
But even the peace of mind knowing if he falls, if he gets
Absolutely.
sick, you don't have to then get him to a doctor, to a
Right.
hospital. They have all of that. Right.
Right.
Remember that with my
Move up
grandmother.
here, so
I
he
don't
had to do
think they
something.
would take you if you don't have enough money, I imagine, because you have to originally, I think, buy into it, because I know our friends did it, and it's like a fortune. It costs
He didn't have to buy into it. He pays month to month, like if he was renting an
Yeah, a
apartment.
friend
Each
of mine
place is
just did
different.
that too with his mother, yeah, and she moved into an apartment and, yeah, she didn't have enough money to pay. So he was paying, part of her social security was paying, and the other part he was paying for her to stay there. But she didn't
If
like
you
it
have
moved
some,
out.
if you have someone to pay for it, you know, let's say
Yeah.
whatever money I have, I'm on my own, so.
Right.
Yeah, usually, like you said, use your house equity
Mm-hmm.
to buy in or to get. You can just take withdrawals from that equity once it's in an investment or a bank account or something, right? There's ways. I know Harvard did a big study, and it basically was about, okay, what happens when you want to get ice cream? You just want to go and get ice cream, but you can't physically drive yourself to go get ice cream, right? The things we take advantage of. What if you need a light bulb changed? Like, those are different simple tasks that we do through the day. You know, okay, who can I lean on when these things come, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
people love having that one handyman that they can call to. They can do the basic stuff.
Change the
Things.
beep in the fire.
Exactly.
detector.
Change the batteries and the alarms
Yeah.
and stuff.
I
Yes.
had a couple of elderly neighbors, 2 women, and the one woman called me the other day. She goes, "Richard, I have, a plant in the back of my car, and I have to bring it around. I have a little red wagon, but I can't lift it out." And it wasn't for me. It wasn't very heavy, but for her,
Yeah.
she needed it to go into the wagon. So I was like, "All right, I'm gonna put it." Like whatever. And Murray came over with me, and Murray's my dog. And he was like, hanging out with her, and she's like, "Oh, can you move this over?" And for me right now, it was nothing. It wasn't very heavy, but
It's kind of
scary.
It's all relative.
exactly. And I'm thinking, gosh, I want somebody living across the street from me that'll just come over. I was
Yeah.
like, sure, we'll take a walk over.
You see, the only thing the young people that we would rely on, they don't know that type of relationship. They don't, you are things to them. So I don't think that they would do something
Yeah.
unless you're absolutely lucky. So I don't have good, even
No,
now.
I just,
you
I
know.
guess she's fortunate. I've been there for over 20 years, so I've known
Yeah.
her
They
that
know.
long.
You know each other. Yeah.
So it's not like, I'm
It's just
somebody
the little
new.
things. I hurt my wrist and I went to the doctors and he put a bandage, whatever he did, he put a brace on it. And he gave me a prescription. I went to the pharmacy and I got home and it was the childproof. I couldn't open it.
Oh no.
So what the heck am I gonna do?
Oh,
They
So
go
I
so hard.
tried stepping on it.
Right, right.
So
You got a better
I
shot of
just
getting
moved
into
into
Fort
this
Knox.
place, so I didn't know anybody, and I went and I knocked on the neighbor's door next door. I said, "Hi, I'm Susan. I'm your neighbor, but
I
you
need
open this,
help."
you open these pills for me." Yeah, but you're right. Like
It's a way to make friends.
Yeah. I need pills.
Oh, share.
Okay. So yeah, then we're gonna have to get creative with,
Mm.
right, and
Yeah.
having connections and relationships with people that we can count on and stuff. Bad markets. How do we protect against that?
I think we
that I don't know.
That's a magical
That's very
question.
scary.
Yes.
It is. It's very, especially right now. It scares me every day. And I'm a Bloomberg junkie, so I listen to Bloomberg all day long.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, they're instilling the fear of God in you every day. It's like when a snowstorm comes and they're like, it's gonna be the worst snowstorm ever. We're
Right.
gonna get 2 feet. You gotta
Yeah.
go get food. You're gonna have no electricity for a week.
Yep.
And then it's nothing. But they get your attention, right? They need you to feel. They need your fear because that means you're gonna tune in. I need to know what's gonna happen. I need to know what's gonna happen and stuff. One thing is annuities do help because annuities have some guarantees to them. Okay. So again, new insurance companies taking on that risk. Another one is a strategy where we have different buckets of money for different things. So we have our 1 to 3 year money. That is very, very conservative. And it might not even be invested in the markets at all. So at least you know the first few years of income isn't tied to what happens in the markets. Because that's the huge fear, right? Markets go up, I retire, and bottom falls out.
Mhm.
Right? And then that's a huge strain if I'm taking money out and the investments are going down. It's like this huge snowball that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. right? This
Right.
huge bleeding spot. Okay. And then we have our next money, so 3 to say 10-year money. And that might have a little bit of stocks in it. And basically it's showing as you get closer to this money, it gets more conservative, knowing, okay, my next year money is ready for me. It's safe, it's conservative, it's not tied to what the markets are doing, it's not tied to what Trump's tweeting out, it's not tied to any of that stuff. That make sense?
So you're moving, every year you're moving more money
Kinda
into
reallocating
that
it.
1 to 3 year
Mhm.
bucket, okay.
And then you have your 10 plus year money. That's invested in the stocks, thinking if there is a dip, I have time to make it up. That's the big thing, right? You worked all this time accumulating all this money and you run out of time to replace it if there is a dip. Okay. So at least we have money. And I tell people, like, and this year's a good example. Markets are doing tremendous. Like, yeah, your last bucket of money is up double digits, is doing great.
Mm.
Because we know we're not touching that. Like, let's take advantage of the gains while they're there. And it's really important because remember inflation? This goes back to the inflation. Inflation's 3%, healthcare's inflation's 5%. We need our money invested to keep up with those high inflation rates.
Mhm.
Remember my dad was talking with one of the clients, he's like, put everything in cash. I'm retiring in a year or two. It's like, well, you can't do that because this is gonna kill you. That doesn't even apply because it's invested in that's earning nothing. So you're dipping into principal every year and stuff. So the bucket thing really helps with bad markets, but also with inflation because we need some money to keep up with inflation. And the only thing that's been proven in past performance to keep up with inflation, more than keep up, is stocks, right?
Mm.
And
But
those
the
returns.
1 to 3 that should be mostly in cash, no?
Mhm.
Or something.
Cash,
or
bonds,
bond.
municipal bonds, government bonds, something that's going to give you income.
Or
Mhm.
CDs, what do they
CDs,
pay
yeah, they
these
don't pay
days?
much.
0.5?
At some point, they'll pay a lot. Okay. So different strategies to help with bad markets, right? And also not having all of your money. Yeah, if all your money is in stocks, so then, okay, if the markets go down, everything's going down. But having it in different places and understanding, well, okay, listen, people are like, oh, this stuff kind of isn't doing much. I'm like, yeah, it's mostly in bonds. It's not supposed to do much. That's its purpose. It's to be the anchor, the steady for it. Okay. Health issues, which kind of goes into what we were talking about before with long-term care, right? Having a plan to help mitigate those costs and stuff. Okay. High expenses goes into these two things, right? So high expenses, I like having we have our wish list, we have our wants, and then what are our needs? So kind of breaking it down to, okay, these are the needs, this is what my needs, basic needs cost me. This would be my wants. My wish list is a house right on the beach. Is that doable? Okay, maybe it's a condo on the beach. Or maybe instead of one big trip, one big trip
You can't afford it, just dive in.
every year with the grandkids. We do it for the graduations. So how can we still do the things we want to do, but on a different scale for our money? Really, how do we rein it in? And the more we can rein it in going into retirement, the easier it is, right? Because that's what I see. Your income goes up, your lifestyle goes up. Your income goes up, your lifestyle goes up, and then you retire, and your lifestyle is this amount of money. You're like, holy crap!
Yeah.
Now, and there's this one couple, and she's like, I feel like we never have enough money. I'm like, yeah, because your lifestyle is still here, but you're living, like your budget is here. But yeah, you feel like you can't do all these things because you put yourself on this pedestal, this lifestyle that most people can't afford. Okay. Social Security and pension. So we can't control that type of stuff. You know, we really can't. What we do the most with the money that we do have, right? That's the money that we have control over, that we can best manage.
So are
Okay.
you advising people, not from a social security standpoint, that if it were to go away, that we're setting up our accounts to not even factor that in a long-term basis?
I don't see it changing for
Not
ladies
in
in
my
this room.
lifetime, I don't think so.
For me,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
betting on it,
Yeah,
or it's going to be a completely different. It probably will be there, just in a completely different role.
You get it at 75.
Right.
I'll get it at age 99, and I'll get it every year. But when Social Security started, the life expectancy was full retirement age.
Right.
Think about that.
Right.
Now, full retirement age, the latest.
80 years probably.
Who's 67? Who's full retirement 67 in here?
I am.
You are?
Retirement is
Mhm.
67?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I have mine is 67 too. That makes no sense.
Because I think that's where
Yeah.
it capped out, is
Mhm. It did.
67, yeah.
So I'm sure that's going to change. But also, it was started. There's no spousal benefits. There's no survival spousal benefits. There's no ex-spousal benefits. I have a woman coming in today and she's getting a divorce, and stay-at-home mom, he worked, so her benefits are half. And I'm figuring out what's the present value of that difference so she can go into negotiate some retirement money for herself. Like back then they didn't have that.
Mhm.
Who was Johnny Carson? He's married 4 times for 10 plus years each wife. So each wife got spousal benefits,
Mm.
half of his benefit. When he passed away, they all got full benefits,
Wow.
his full benefits. So you can imagine, okay, that's why we're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
They started adding all
They
these
should
things
not
to
be
it,
allowed.
That's crazy.
You should have had to.
and they only
split it.
adjusted how much you pay into it a little bit. And you think about the number of baby boomers, what 10,000
Yeah.
baby boomers retire a day
Mhm.
versus people paying into it and supporting that.
Yeah, that's why I figure, that's what I'm doing. I'm acting like that doesn't
It doesn't
exist.
exist.
And if
That'll be
it's
your
gravy,
gravy.
yeah.
Yeah, so you can be very conservative and plan that way.
Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
I'm
Wait.
counting on it.
And there aren't any, because we hear from DC, you know, the connections and stuff, and there's no proposals that are going to affect people over 50.
Mhm.
Okay, like I see them changing it for me,
Yeah.
but I mean, it would be very hard for them to do that to somebody. Okay, they're about to retire, we're going to completely screw them. Oh, we're going to hook you up completely, and you have any time to make up for that or plan for that.
Well, retirement age used to be 55 too,
Yep.
remember?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Inflation, we talked about that, right?
Mhm.
Investments, that goes back into that. And then taxes, right? So this we look at, it's something that we can really look at every year. Okay, how much money do I need to pull out of my retirement accounts? What tax bracket is that going to push me into? Do I have other money, non-tax, after-tax money, Roth money, or money just in a bank account that I can supplement with my IRA money or my 401k money so that I'm not paying extra money if I don't have to? Or one thing I like to do is we have your income stream from your retirement accounts, because usually that's our biggest asset,
Mhm.
right? Our biggest investment. But anything extra, oh, I need a new car, I'm going on a trip, those one-time expenses we pull from the after-tax bucket.
Mm.
Right, because then it's not an extra $40,000 coming out of retirement account,
Mhm.
and then we have to take actually an extra $70,000 to pay for the taxes and stuff. Okay, so this really comes into play with the income planning portion, and not have all of our money in retirement accounts, because then all that money is going to get taxed to us. Right?
What is the minimum distribution percentage?
Oh, good question. So at 70.5, they force you to take out 3.65%
Of your total assets, is that
from
IRAs?
your
and
IRAs,
Everything
401ks.
combined?
Yes,
Okay.
not Roth IRAs, not any after-tax money, but from your IRAs, your 401ks. So they look at what is your account value on January 1st of that year, and then they force you to take out 3.65%.
So there's your 4% rule.
Yeah, and then it goes up a little bit each year.
Mm.
They force you to take out a little bit more each year. Till 115, and then they force you to take out 50%. I don't think anyone's gotten there yet. Yeah. But it creeps up
Mhm.
a little bit each year.
But that's a long time to wait, 70 and a half. So until then you would pay more tax than you have
No,
to
you
pay
can take
taxes.
money out at any point without penalty. The IRS wants to make sure you take your money out at 70 and a half.
Yeah.
They want their tax money. So
They don't
brings
want,
in-
they don't want you to
so
leave it to
much
anybody.
money.
They want it all, yeah.
and I have some women that they have so much in their IRA compared to what they're living on, that 70.5 for the required minimum distribution, it's such a high amount. They don't need you to live on, so they're going to pay so much in taxes for nothing.
That's
How
how
do
my
they
dad
get that
is.
much money into an IRA? I mean, there's just so much you can put into an IRA.
Right, but if your living expenses aren't very much, unless
Right.
you're living on, you have Social Security, maybe you have pension money,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have forced to take out an extra 50,000 from an IRA.
It probably rolled over a retirement plan into an IRA.
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
okay.
That's what my dad
Okay.
did, and so
All right.
they
Yeah.
make him take it out. He's like, but I don't need it, but he has
Exactly.
to do it.
Mhm.
So I have one woman.
Which is a better place to be than like,
Not
I need
have
more
it.
out,
Right,
but they
right.
won't
Yeah.
let me take it.
Okay,
So.
yeah.
So I have one woman, and each year we look at her income. She's still working, and we'll convert some of her IRA money to a Roth.
Mm-hmm.
And we do it so that, let's say she's at the 15% tax bracket, we'll do, okay, so that we stay under the 20% tax bracket. And we'll look at it each year. So at least we're getting some money or paying on it now while she's working. It's not as painful paying
Mhm.
taxes when you have income coming in, too. So you can do things like that, or it's really good to do that. And I told her when she retires, and if she doesn't need to take money out yet, so her income is really, really low, we can take out larger chunks to convert them.
Mm.
Right, so we're paying, you're still taking the money out, but you're paying a lot less in taxes over the long haul. Right. But that was one of her priorities. She's like, I want to be really tax efficient. I hate the idea of paying more in taxes than I need to.
Mhm.
All right, well, this is how we can work with that. Some people are like, I don't really care that much about it. I don't want to have to deal with it every year. But there are ways, income planning, you really want to look at that. It's something that we look at. Okay. All right, we're right at 7:30. How's everybody doing? Any questions? Did I put too much out? Or does this kind of make sense?
It's just a lot to think about.
Kind of goes into my world of how I approach what I'm doing with your money or would do with your money and stuff. So it's kind of, we get a little nerdy on it.